Another thing, I just request that all questions can be please put into the question and answer tab and finish. Once I finish the presentation, I anticipate it should take somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes. Then we'll be able to have another 30 minutes of question and answers before we hit the top of the hour at 6 and close up the presentation. I also want to put a big thank you to all the sustaining partners of the World Potato Congress. Without them, none of this can be possible. These webinars, the World Potato Congress. So I want to thank all of the members of the sustaining partners for all their support to the World Potato Congress. So that brings us to our presentation. And today we're going to do a presentation on supporting smallholder potato farmers in Kenya through a decentralized seed hub site model. My name is Chris Gasperi. I'm the founder and managing director of FreshCrop Limited. So I don't want to start the presentation without acknowledging my leadership team. Without them, none of this could be possible. On the left side there is Ashley Gasperi. She's the executive director in charge of marketing and human resources. On the right side of your screen there, you'll see Brendan Ireland. He is also an executive director who oversees the finance, compliance, and sales. Then as you go towards the bottom of the screen, on your left-hand side, that is Nick Moy. He's an advisor to us financially. He also is one of the shareholders in the organization. And on the right there, I want to give a huge shout out to Simon Durango. He's our plant specialist with over 30 years experience in tissue culture. He was also very instrumental in the start of FreshCrop. Once we get into our next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about my journey, but he really plugged me in to the potato value chain when I arrived in Kenya. So super instrumental in the beginning of FreshCrop. So in order to understand about FreshCrop, I have to tell you a little bit about my story, which will make sense as we continue through in the presentation. So my wife's family originally came to Kenya about 35 years ago. My wife was 4 years old. She schooled in Kenya through primary and secondary school, and then made her way back to the US for university, where she graduated with her nursing degree, and then continued on to get a double major in nurse administration and also as a nurse practitioner. Myself, I grew up in Philadelphia. My parents owned a value addition business in the US. And my father, worked 7 days a week, never wanted me to get into the industry, so sent me off to university, where I got my initial degree in nursing. And then I continued on in my career to get my master's, executive master's, as I moved into administration. So, where Ashley and I's path converged was in the hospital. So we met initially in the emergency room where we were both working as nurses. And, it was such a coincidence that Ashley and I met, because I was on my way out of that hospital and she was on her way in, and we only crossed over for 1 month. So we said it was meant to be that we were to meet because our journey eventually brought us over to Kenya. So Ashley always had the dream of being able to come back to Kenya to be able to give back to the country who's given her so much throughout her lifetime. Her and her best friend founded an NGO that worked in the water and sanitation sector, and they appointed me initially as the managing director for that organization. So around 11 years ago, we started our journey into Kenya. We would come over on a yearly basis, do medical clinics, and we started to see, that those one-time trips, weren't making the impact, that we really wanted to make in some of these communities. So around 8 years ago, we were lying in bed and we said, what's keeping us from going over to Kenya permanently? And at the time, Ashley's best friend, Elsie, also was kind of pushing us like, why don't you guys move to Kenya? So we made the jump, came over to Kenya, successfully opened up our NGO, started working in the water and sanitation department sector, doing boreholes at rural community schools and supporting in the health initiatives in the region. But during that process, we obtained our first piece of land up in the Nakuru County. And, along that journey, I started meeting my neighbors, said, what kind of farming do we do up in this region? And they said, we do potatoes, we do maize, uh, corn, or beans. So I decided to venture into potato farming. My first season did really well. Our crop was successful. Uh, really didn't realize how the market system worked in Kenya. My neighbor said, we use a broker system. And, I got connected with the broker. We agreed on our pricing. And he came to the farm. I harvested all my potatoes, put them in the bags. And he said, no, no, no. That's not how we pack our bags here in Kenya. And those of you potentially on the call or from Kenya know what I'm speaking about. They get to your farm, you agree, at a 50 kg bag, and they say, no, 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 we need more, more, more. So they continue to pile up until we get to about 110 kgs per bag. And, I did a lot of my calculations on my bag being 55 kgs because at that time, it's before we had the legislation for the 55 kg bags. So they would give prices based on bag. So, when I looked at my pocket after I got done doing the transaction, I had nothing left. So I said, at this point, you know, it, the brokers are the ones making all the money. And at this point, I lived in Nakuru town, close to all the off takers for all these potatoes. So I started, just walking into the international schools, all the big hotels and all the small hotels, and said, would you guys be interested in getting potatoes directly from the farm? So I started that process of off taking, directly from my farm. And as you can see in that first picture there on the screen, I was loading up the potatoes in the back of my car and bringing them down to these facilities. And that started to gain traction and started to then outgrow my own farm and started to contract a lot of the farmers that were in my region who were dealing with some of the stream struggles in the broker system that existed here in Kenya. And a lot of the reason that the broker system exists is because the infrastructure to be able to get your potatoes from the farm directly to the market was very limited. Also, the ability for some of these farmers in the rural areas to be able to go into the city areas to search for some of these markets was also a big challenge. So, I felt like I could fill that gap and we continued to grow. Um, then I came into a season where I had the most amount of orders coming in. And, at that time, we were sourcing our certified seed from the government parastatal, that was mandated to be able to produce most of the certified seeds at that time in the market. So we put our order in. I secured the most amount of contracts that I had in that year, and I go to call to pick up my seeds, and they tell me that I'm sorry, the seed crops weren't as good as we thought they were going to be. So we're not going to have any seeds this season. And I said, well, when do you think I am going to get them? And they said, well, we anticipate that we'll be able to catch up within the next 1.5 to 2 years. So as a farmers, we got together. Some of the farmers had farm safe seed. We decided we were going to plant them. We did get through the season, but unfortunately, I seen some problems from utilizing seeds from my neighbor on my own farm. Did some farm testing and found out that my farm got contaminated with potato cyst nematodes. And I said, those darn government parastatal, weren't able to get me my seeds, and now my farm's contaminated. So I changed that anger into a potential opportunity. I did some searching on the internet, just trying to talk to different guys in the potato value chain, and eventually got connected to the International Potato Center, or SIP, with a lady named Monica Parker. And I did some searching online, found out that she was running a program in apical root cuttings, for rapid seed multiplication for the country. So contacted her. She was great. gave me a ton of information about apical root cuttings, and eventually we got to potentially of myself doing a demo. So she connected me with Simon. This is where he came into the story. He was the scientist in our area who was heading a tissue culture lab, and they got me my first demo on apical root cuttings. I was successful in being able to produce to be able to have a survival rate of 100%. So Monica said, maybe a good opportunity to go into the potato value chain in seed production. So I started my journey, and that's where FreshCrop Limited started. So I then searched and searched for a large farm, but was unable to find one. Got connected into a 45-acre farm, started doing seed production on there. Really quickly realized that the farm was going to be way too small for the way that seed production goes here. It takes about 5 generations to be able to get to a certified seed if you start all the way from tissue culture. So I quickly realized that 45-acre wasn't going to be enough. So I started down thinking that, I had a lot of success with my contract farming. Why don't I start to do contract farming in seed production? So started that journey down with seed production, and quickly realized, that the seed production was a bit challenging if you didn't have access to all the proper inputs, proper access to financing. Because at this point, I was self-financing myself, also financing the outgrowers. Also found a challenge of access to mechanization services and also proper agronomical practices. So I said, why don't I create what's known as a decentralized seed production model, where at my farm, the 45-acre farm, I would produce the apical root cuttings all the way through to a basic seed. Then I would contract out my farmers in my region who had tested farms, that didn't have PCN or Restonia because they're part of the requirements of our seed production. And we started that. I did that for a couple of seasons, started to realize that the farmers, weren't able to give the high quality seeds that the farmers required. So I kind of pulled back a little bit on the contract farming and seed production, but I never forgot, where I came from. So I always had in the back of my mind that I want to continue with supporting smallholder farmers and being able to increase the income in their pocket. So I put that aside just for a minute, started doing some additional searching, found a little bit of a larger farm in the Narok area, and decided to open up a second hub site. So the second hub site was located in the Narok region of Kenya. This was a 4,000-acre farm. So I decided to continue to increase internally with FreshCrop, the seed multiplication, but decided that I wasn't going to forget about my smallholder farmers. So decided to make a pitch to, at that point, SNV, who was taking applications for supporting smallholder farmers. So we came up with a program known as a TOT program. And through this SNV grant, it was a co-investment. We both invested 200,000 USD to be able to develop this program. So in the short, we were able to get together a TOT program, and we're going to discuss that further into the presentation. But we were able to successfully train 150 TOTs that were then able to train 10,000 smallholder farmers. So from the inception of FreshCrop to today, we've really spread our wings into 9 potato growing regions, all of them listed here. And one of the unique things about Kenya is that we have a couple of different rainy seasons that are spread out throughout the different regions. So strategically, we've been able to train farmers in the different regions that are able to grow in different seasons. So we have some of our regions that are one season. We have some of our, which is our lower altitude areas. Some of our medium altitude areas typically could be 2 seasons crops. And then you get into our high altitude where FreshCrop is where we can typically do somewhere around 2.5 to 3 crops in a year. So, it was a really great dynamic in Kenya for potato production. So we wanted to continue with that momentum and be able to really stretch our wings. So that's where the fresh crop model came in. So we recognized, some of the fragmentation in the market for the potato and said that, you know, there isn't an organization that exists that can really oversee all the parts of the value chain to make sure that we're all interlocked and being able to achieve one goal of being able to increase the potato production in Kenya. So we decided that as an organization, we were going to start from in vitro, move through to apical root cuttings that are going to be planted in the greenhouse, then move to seed production on our larger farms. And then the last part of the value chain is where we wanted to incorporate our smallholder farmers. So the Fresh Crop decided that we were going to partner with smallholder farmers for the production of for commercial production of potatoes. And then the last part of the value chain, which we're in the process of completing, is a processing center. So we'll have the complete value chain all the way through in vitro, all the way through to value addition to be able to service the potato value chain in Kenya. So just to understand a little bit about our service model and how we interact with our smallholder farmers. So this is essentially what the hub site can offer. So we'll talk a little bit in the next slide about the training aspect. So that has to do with our TOT model, and I'll explain more in depth about that. Then they can also access certified seeds through our production hubs. They also can access high quality inputs, and that's through our agrovets that also offer soil testing. And through this arm, we've developed what's known as a 1 acre package. That is a true and tested program that I'll speak a little bit more as we go. We also offer extension services to farmers. Now, this is also linked to our TOT program, which I'll explain a little bit further. And then the last aspect you can see down there. So I just want to continue back in our model. So I want to continue into our ambassador training program. So this program was initiated through the partnership with SNV and FreshCrop through our co-investment. We saw that it was with the great work we were doing in the seed production, there also needed to be some work down the line if we wanted to continue in developing the value chain in Kenya. So with SNV's assistance, we developed what's known as the Fresh Crop Ambassador Program. So through this program, the first thing that we do is we identify lead farmers in all of those regions that were identified in that previous slide. We bring them to our facilities and we take them through a 1 week workshop. And we go through all the different aspects of the potato value chain. We also implemented a program where we introduced them to climate change and some of the mitigation strategies. Also, introduction of climate smart potato production. Also, introduction of soil nutrition, pest and disease control, harvest, post-harvest management, marketing, value addition, and also wanted to include an aspect of gender and social inclusion. So this program was initiated for the lead farmers in the region. And then after they got trained, then we introduced them right back to their communities. So then the next phase of this process was then being able to enable these ambassadors to go back to their communities and train on some of the same aspects that we trained on in the initial 1 week. So through the support of SNV and through Fresh Crop, we would support completely these demos to happen directly in their communities. So they would train on all the components of climate smart agriculture, with pre-season financial planning. They would go through land prep and planting, crop and field management, harvest, post-harvest management, marketing, and economic benefits. So we've seen huge success through this program. And the last aspect of it, which is I'll speak a little bit more about after the video, was then can having a yearly farmers field day. So we wanted to keep in contact with a lot of these farmers after the training, and continue to engage them. So we decided to hold what's known as our farmers field day. So I'll give you a little bit of a feel of what our farmers field day is, and I'll explain a little bit about it after the video.
Welcome. Today is such a special day for us at FreshCrop Limited. Today we have the honor to host over 7,000 farmers from 9 different potato growing regions in Kenya. FreshCrop Limited is a full value chain seed production company. We operate from breeding through seed multiplication. We work in the commercial sector. We also work in the agrochemical and fertilizer section. And the purpose of this event is to bring together all the new technologies in the agrochemicals, mechanization, so that the farmers can have access. They can learn from the different vendors of the new technologies that they have. This is the cheapest biological product hapa FreshCrop. We are happy with the field day and the opportunity to interact with the farmers who have received our information and technologies very positively. Tafuta mbegu niko certified, upande wako utapata mavuno mazuri. Today we are here at FreshCrop Limited to display our products as OCP Kenya Limited. Nafundisha mkulima wakati wa kupanda, tafuta planting fertilizer.
Our main agenda of the day is to emphasize the use of potassium, magnesium, and sulfur in potato production. Craft project is a climate smart agriculture project that aims to increase climate resilient food production for the growing population of East Africa.
So my expectations for this day were great. We have a large demo set up with a great group of partners and a lot of farmers. Farmers are giving really good feedback.
Nimejifunza mengi kuhusu utaratibu ambao naweza kutumia wakati wa kupanda, hata kucontrol magonjwa kwa mchanga na pia kwa viazi.
Sisi kama counties yenye tunalima viazi will support FreshCrop 100%.
FreshCrop ni jega muno.
Insidai ang kampuni FreshCrop.
Napenda FreshCrop!
I hope all of you could see the screen properly and could see the video. It's one of our showcase events that we hold each year. And it's continued to grow year after year as our FreshCrop family continues to grow. But just going back to our ending of our SNV relationship, through the co-investment grant that we did, we started to really explore, how we can make this sustainable. Initially, we were supporting it both from FreshCrop and SNV, but we really thought it had a lot of momentum. We wanted to continue it to grow. So we started to see how much interest we had in certified seed directly through these demos that we had in the communities. So we said, why can't we incentivize all these TOTs to be able to be our ambassadors out in the community? So we started initially offering them to be our seed salesmen in their local communities. So we started to see some huge success and being able to see an opportunity for some sustainability in this program. We then said, we are interested in, creating a processing center. So can we start to see if we can institute through these TOTs an incentive for, they're now buying the seeds from us. They're in the same community where these seeds are being purchased and grown. So can we then enable them to be the aggregator, that we can offtake this commercial product? And through the first season, we were able to offtake over 800,000 kgs of potatoes directly from the farmers who were buying our seeds. So he said, this is a great opportunity, to be able to develop this program and be able to give multiple outlets for these ambassadors to be able to make their own money, because we looked at some of the financials of being able to bring on all these guys as employees, because at this point, FreshCrop already had about 60 plus permanent employees. We support around 200 to 300 casual laborers on a daily basis on our farm. So when we looked at our books, it didn't really make sense of bringing these guys on. So we looked at what they could potentially make on those two programs and said, there's something that we have here. So then we really started to look at some of the concerns of the farmers, of being able to access high quality inputs. And we said, how can we continue to develop this farmer field day? So, on the front end of the farmer field day, we bring in all the farmers, introduce them to all the new technologies. But what people don't realize is on the background, we have our agronomy team evaluating all the agrochemicals that exist in the industry in Kenya. And we start to see through the demo, because we have every one of them on our farm and we can be there on a daily basis when they're doing their sprays. So we develop what's known as the 1 acre package. So, in completion of the assistance to the smallholder farmers, we now have them access to certified seed, access to agrochemicals and fertilizers. And now we're developing the access to the market, and that's the third area of opportunity for these TOTs to develop some income directly from the relationship with FreshCrop. And we started to see some huge outcomes through the initiation of these partnerships with these TOTs. So I want to share some of the average increases in our farmers from the initiation of our project all the way through to today. So you can see at our baseline and first year, we were at about 5,000, on average kgs per acre. Then you move into the initiation of our first round of certified seed. We were able to increase directly to about 6,200 kgs per acre. Then in 2023, with just the implementation of our certified seed, we get up to about 7,500 kgs per acre. And then you can see now in our most recent initiation of our 1 acre packages. So this is now being able to offer the farmer certified seed and the customized agrochemical plan. And we were able to increase our farmers to above 9 tons, even reaching as high as 12 tons per acre. Then when you look financially, with that same exact time frame, you can see the average income for a farmer has significantly increased from about 605 USD to upwards of about 1,600 USD with just the initiation of the certified seed. And then in continuation, with the introduction of our 1 acre package, which includes the fertilizers and agrochemicals, we were able to increase to about $2,000 to $3,000, which were resulting in about $1,000 to $2,000 per acre in profit. Just another area that FreshCrop touches on with our program is in our support with the community. So we talked a little bit about what brought me to this country. It was through our NGO, Akenua. So over the years, I started to incorporate a lot of what we do because a lot of the areas that we're serving with our smallholder farmers are similar to the areas we're trying to reach with our NGO for water and sanitation. So we've done a program where we give access. FreshCrop accesses the Akenua water bowser to be able to provide water to the local schools and communities during the dry season in our areas. And another program that I thought was essential, when you look at the the worldview of farmers, is typically looked at as a forest destroyers. And I wanted to create a program of where we can be able to be looked at and change the narrative for our farmers to be forest creators. So through this program, we give out seedlings to all the farmers who come in and purchase a certain amount of certified seeds from us. We've also planted trees amounting to over 65,000 seedlings in all of the schools that are in the surrounding 5 kilometers. And we've also partnered with the Kenya Forest Service to be able to plant indigenous trees in the forests that surround us. So this has been a super huge success program, and we've had various partners who've come on to be able to support this. And we now have a nursery directly at the FreshCrop farms that can produce over 1 million seedlings in a year. So our impact is, directly of what we talked about in supporting over 10,000 farmers. Now, not every farmer is involved in the complete program. Some of them come in directly for the training, then go their own ways. Some of them come in, they only buy certified seeds from us. Some of them come in, buy the full package. Some of them just come to our farmers field day. So, within that 10,000 amount, there's various different ways that we interact with these farmers. And what we touched on a little bit earlier was the amount of staff that we grew from the staff of just one when I started this company to now 60 plus. Then we talk about the casual laborers of 150 plus. And, the area that we farm in is one of those 3-season areas. So we typically are having more than 150 casual laborers on our farm for more than 9 to 10 months. And then we go into the 150 ambassadors that we support throughout the 10 counties. And then just as far as food security, our farm alone, just as FreshCrop, produces about 8 million kilos of potatoes. Now, all of that is not certified. All of us know, in a certified crop, we occasionally get those larger potatoes, that have to go into the commercial market. But of the 8 million, we're at about 5.5 to 6 million of that is distributed as certified seed. And then through that, we estimate in our farmer network of about 40,000 kgs of being produced on an annual basis. And then just in our last, just to give a farmer testimonial of some of these hardworking FreshCrop ambassadors. This one is a particularly good friend of mine. His name is Rufus Yanko. He's just a couple of kilometers directly away from our farm. And, before we engaged with him, he had really low yields on his farm, didn't really get access to good agronomical practices. But through the training, he's been able to have a huge impact and trained over 1,000 farmers in his region and being able to almost double his production of potatoes. So, he's a really happy guy. I see him on a very regular basis, and we talk about how we can continue to improve the farming in Kenya. So with this, I know just about 2 minutes over my time. So I do want to end the presentation and then potentially go to some question and answer session. So Asanteni Sana. And this is a picture of our growing team. This is out one of our hub site in Narok. And you can see all the various members of our team listed there in a couple of those pictures. So thank you very much. And let me see if I can get over to the question and answer session. So just looking at the first question, SNV is the Dutch development. That's sponsored by the Dutch government. The particular project that we were involved in was known as CRAFT. I think you've seen a little bit in the video of them making a small presentation. So second question, what does TOT mean? So that's a train of trainers. So the TOT was the initial term that we were giving these farmers when we were in the initial stage of the development of the program. But then as the program developed, and they had a larger role within the community, they then were transformed, or we changed the name of them to now become FreshCrop ambassadors. So looking at the next question, so when we talk about FreshCrop ambassadors, this question is about how are the ambassadors paid? So that was something that initially, when we were still within the SNV grant, they were given stipends because that was our initial role with us as an organization. Was mainly to be able to get our climate smart trainings out into the community. So they were given stipends, and it was mainly on hitting different targets because we had different requirements for data sharing and those type of things. But then as we developed the ambassador program, it became more of an entrepreneur type program. So they were able to make money off partnering with FreshCrop. So initially, the first program that we introduced to them was being able to aggregate seed orders, and they would make a stipend per bag that they would sell. Then the second part we introduced to them was the ambassador program, or excuse me, the aggregation program that was of commercial potatoes. And they would be able to, every kg that they would aggregate from the farmers who bought certified seeds from us, they would get a stipend. And then after we decided that we were going to open up our own agro vets and be able to introduce what's known as the 1 acre package, or the package that includes a semi-customized fertilizer plan, fungicides, insecticides, herbicides. Then we also made that an ability for the ambassadors to be able to make a small stipend through the sales of the proper agrochemicals to farmers. And I didn't touch on it, but there is an additional area of opportunity for these ambassadors that we're still in the process of developing. So we have a digital app that's known as Hello Tractor, and that's one of our partners. And they offer mechanization services through a digital app. So they allowed our FreshCrop ambassadors to become agents for them to be able to give all these farmers that were typically doing manual planting and manual harvesting the ability to be able to contract mechanized planting and mechanized harvesting. So we've seen some early success in that program and anticipate that that's going to be one of the programs that we're going to continue to introduce as we open up the factory. Because, even with the introduction of mechanization to our farm, because we had a journey in mechanization as FreshCrop, and, we've seen just with the introduction of an automated harvester, a 30% decrease in bruised and damaged potatoes. So, that means huge amounts of cash that are coming back to these farmers, with the use of mechanization. So as we continue down on some of these questions, are you getting financing from Kenyan banks? Are they a collateral requirement, easy to meet? What is the going interest rate, if you're allowed to share that? So yeah, that's great. For us as an organization, I've been, and I didn't get to say much about this in my story, but I self-financed everything with FreshCrop from the beginning. So, people always ask me, like, how did you do that? And, I had the ability, of having the other company in the water and sanitation NGO, of kind of getting me by day to day. And I just keep pushing everything that I made from the company back in to continue to grow it. Now, today, as an organization, as we're venturing into value addition, we have just completed our first round of financing with the bank to be able to construct the processing center. And there is a significant requirement for collateral. We did put up a lot of our tractors and the land that we own as collateral for that loan. But in that same line, I'll discuss a little bit about our offerings to our farmers. So we went through various of the mainstream banks in Kenya, and really getting them to finance farmers, because a lot of these farmers are in the informal setting, and they're not really visible too much in the tax bracket, so it's really difficult, and a lot of them use a system called M-Pesa. So it was a little bit difficult with the mainstream banks to be able to get them to finance them. But we were successful in a credit union that was interested in the potato product that we were offering, known as the 1 acre package. And they used a really interesting collateral. So they already had existing relationships with dairy cooperatives, and a lot of these farmers were bringing milk on a daily basis. So they had a great track record with this cooperative union. So we partnered with them to be able to offer a package that was collateralized. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right word, but directly through their cows that they had on the farm. So the typical value of a cow was around I want to say 135,000 Kenya shillings, which is somewhere around 1,000 to 1,100 USD, which matched up exactly to the offering of our 1 acre package. So they were able to utilize that as an asset. And to date, we've done about, I think it's about 7 or 8,000 bags through this program. And I'm happy to say that we have about a 97% repayment back. And just touching on the interest rates, and typically they are high in Kenya. You're typically going to see, and I think they're going to be dropping, which I'm hearing from some of the banks, but currently they're offering at about 16 to 20% per annum. Any other leaders from other countries able to come and see your model or of helping many communities? Absolutely. We're completely open, and I get visitors on a regular basis that come and see what we're doing, not only from the region but from abroad. I've continued the relationship with International Potato Center, so usually about quarterly, sometimes a bit more depending on on the programs that they're running, that I'll have farmers come in and see what we're doing. And I'm completely open with sharing, completely open with new partnerships, being able to be formed to be able to support the work. So we're an open book, and as you can see on this webinar, I'm completely open to sharing anything that we do. So we got another question is, what is the cost of potato production per acre basis? So typically this varies, and we usually use an average of about 1,100 USD, and I'm not sure if I'm doing the conversion right, but if we were going in Kenya shillings, it's usually between 135,000 to some of our more advanced farmers who are doing customized fertilizer plans to about 155,000 Kenya shillings, that is. So how do you handle visitors knowing the risk of disease? So that is a big challenge. We do have to sanitize on the way into the farm. And typically most of our visitors will stay on the beginning part of our farm. We usually don't go too far interior. But the nature of our farm, we do have actually some public roads that go through directly through our farm. So it is a challenge, and we're working with this Maasai community in Narok, and we're continuing to work with them to increase our fencing, increase our security, to be able to secure our crops. So definitely is something that's on our radar, and we do as many mitigation risk as we can to be able to decrease that risk. Obviously, we're human and sometimes make mistakes, but we try to rectify those as much as possible, and as they're identified, we try to not make those mistakes again. Next question. We go to, how much of potatoes can it be produced per acre when certified seeds are used? So For me, we've seen significant increases in production. And from our earlier slide, I think we started at with a baseline with our farmers at somewhere around 5 to 6 tons, and have got as high as 11.5 tons. For us as fresh crop, we average somewhere around 8 to 10 tons per acre. But as we're continuing to learn, we've reached as high as 15 to 18 tons per acre. And this isn't done only by fresh crop. We've had multiple partners that have come in. Um, Peter, the chairman of the World Potato Congress, we're in regular communication. And he's been super open, being able to help me as I come up with challenges. The International Potato Center has been super helpful in being able to help us, streamline some of our processes. Some of our research institutions, Calro, Kefis is our inspectorate body here, which has been super helpful with us in the process. We've also had some consultants come through with a program known as PUM, which brings in experts throughout the world to be able to help in different areas that we feel we can have improvement in. So, farming, we all know, is has its challenges. So as those challenges come up, we look for experts that can help us in those areas to continue to increase. One of the things that we didn't talk too much is that we're trying to partner with different seed breeders around the world. We've done some work in HTPS in our region, which I think is a good technology, for the future. We've done some trials with Northern Hemisphere breeders, and being able to make some varieties that are specifically made for the equatorial zone, in our typical 11.5 hour light period. So, it's not only what stands behind fresh crop is a whole myriad of partners that help us to be successful. Next question. Congratulations for this great project to you and your team, as well as Monica and Sip. Keep up the great work. Thank you. What needs to be done to further increase the yields per acre? So I think we've only touched the surface of what we can do. I talked a little bit about really the impact of mechanization services and access to the farmers, because the land preparation, that as you go out to those communities that don't have access to mechanization, is really detrimental to their crops. I think we're moving forward in being able to get access to a lot of these farmers to good high quality inputs. One of the things that I don't know if I talked a lot about was we instituted soil nutrition testing directly at our hub site. So a farmer can come directly, bring their soils, and if they decide to purchase the fertilizers from us, the testing is free, and we'll give them semi-customized fertilizer plan. And I say semi-customized because, one of the things in Kenya is that we get a lot of blended fertilizer. So, when you're looking at a lot of your key elements of N, P, and K, they're kind of standardized in bags. So, we can only mix so much before we start overdosing in some of our trace elements. So that's really been a stumbling block, for really breaking the ceiling. But, with our initial semi-customized fertilizer plans and introduction of some foliar feeds, I think we're really trending in the right direction. And I think introduction of some of the new technologies of seed breeding, will be instrumental in continuing to increase the yields in the country. And having these programs of from the private sector who are kind of overseeing a lot of this, I think is really key in being able to streamline the value chain. And I think we'll continue to see that trend of other organizations kind of following our footsteps of being able to offer some of these services, because when you speak to some of these farmers who go through these programs, it's been life changing. Next one is which varieties are you dealing with? So about 95% of our production is in a variety known as Shangi. And this variety was specifically developed by our research institution as well as SIP. And it's a short dormancy, 3-month crop. And it's been really successful in Kenya. And it's a very versatile potato. It can be used both in processing and in table. The only downfalls with it is that it has a very short dormancy. So the processors can't keep it for long. It has pretty deep eyes. So I know there's a lot of work of being done to be able to kind of breed in Shangi, because the one of the things with the farmers here and having a multi-season, if we miss the rain, you can actually keep Shangi in the ground and it'll resprout going into the next season. Whereas some of our longer dormancy varieties is not able to do that. So that's the biggest variety we're dealing with. We also have a couple other of the SIP varieties known as Unica, Wanjiku, Nyota, and we are partnering with different seed companies. So currently, Major in the Netherlands, we have a couple of their lady varieties. Also, Europlant, we're trialing Donata, and we have a couple of other varieties that we're testing in country to be able to see their efficacy. So there was another question about our processing plan. So, we've always seen that there's an opportunity for processing in Kenya. Currently, we have about 3 or 4 really small scale processors. We have in the recent years, we've had some multinationals come in and start some small processing. But they really are having the challenge of aggregating the potato supply to get to their factory. We felt as FreshCrop that it only made sense that we're supporting all these farmers, that we can continue to support them and bring them back to our processing line, and also have the ability to kind of backstop ourselves. So we've broken ground for our processing center. We bought a 20-acre industrial park that is now going to be housing our processing line. And in this processing, we're going to be doing initially fresh French fries, which is going to supply a lot of the domestic market and a lot of the regional demand. In year 2 of the processing center, we're upgrading to frozen French fries. In addition to this, we visited some of the processing centers in the region, and a lot of their problem is in the waste management. So into this project, we also incorporated the waste that's going to be feeding into a black soldier fly facility, which is then going to be translated through the frass for an organic fertilizer that we can then reintroduce back to our farmers. So it's a super interesting project, and I wish we could do a whole nother webinar on the processing plans, but truly that's what we think is the future, and we're going to continue down that line to make sure that we can solidify the full value chain. Do you deal or intention to work with hybrid true potato seeds? Yes, we did sign a 5-year agreement with Solenta and doing some trials with some of the varieties. We were able to successfully assist them in being able to introduce a couple varieties to the country. I think Solenta is continuing to do work in the country. But yes, we have dealt with HTPS, and I think that there will be an area for opportunity with that technology, and look forward to what the future brings. How many years? So initially started the journey about, I want to say 7.5 years ago. So from 7 years ago to now, we've really moved, and a lot of the guys who know me know that Monica, I don't know if she's on, but she calls me a bull in a china closet. That when I get an idea or get a have something that I want to do, I go full force. to make sure that we can achieve our targets. So yeah, 7.5 years. What interactions with Kenya government, Ministry of Agriculture, CalRO, Extension Services. So we're constantly involved in many different projects with all the government entities. Just yesterday, I was with. We're moving into another hub site, which is in another high-producing potato region known as Elgeyo Marakwet. So I met with the governor of the region and the deputy governor, the head of agriculture, and we're seeing how we can roll out some of our programs with the farmer training and access to certified seeds and access to the high quality fertilizer directly in that region. CalRO just finished up some projects with them and working with some programs of where they want to increase the seed production in the country, and being able to get some similar models, that I'm utilizing with the smallholder farmers to see if we can start to introduce certified seeds at the cooperative level, and then internally with the cooperatives, they could do a one-stage multiplication and then be able to provide an economic product to the farmers that are directly within their services. With the existing extension services in Kenya, we partner with them with all of our trainings that they can offer their input. We also try to work with them as much as we can in disease scouting in the different regions, doing soil testing, with them. There was another question on the varieties we're producing. I think I touched a little bit on that. Another one was about connecting farmers to market. So right now we're existing, we're getting into the processing, like I said, is going to be an offtake, but right now we do offtake to the existing processors for our farmers. We also have our own stands in the two biggest markets in the country. One of them's in Nairobi and one of them's in Mombasa, which we have our own logistics that we can take potatoes directly to those markets. Chris, thank you for the webinar. I'm part of the USAID Late Blight Resistant Project working with SIP. Yes, definitely excited about the Late Blight Resistant Project and excited to see what comes out of it. I am also part of that. Another question, do you have time to sleep? I can sleep when I die. I'm really passionate about what I do and really excited about the headway that we're making and want to keep that ball rolling. But I do take some time off, and I like to, when I'm doing my trips, I like to visit farmers when I'm doing it, and also have some time relaxing. So last question that I'm seeing here, and it looks like we're getting close to our 1 hour mark, is do you facilitate the selling of ware potatoes for fresh market farmers, and what are the challenges faced? So yes, we do try to offtake, but one of the things with the contracts that we realized was a really stumbling block, because of the change in the price of potatoes in Kenya happens almost on a daily basis. In the beginning, there would be set pricing, and you'd be working with this farmer all the way through the season. And then, the brokers would try to come in. And because of the changing prices in the market, what we agreed on was potentially a little bit lower than what was being offered directly in the market. So the farmers would then sell directly to the brokers, and we would lose that those potatoes of selling to the market. One of the things that we've changed up in our new rounds of contracting is that we only offer a minimum price, meaning that if the prices go super low in the market, we're going to continue to be at an area where a farmer can make money. When the potato prices go up, then we use a variable model because of our activeness in the market, on the commercial side, we know when those changes happen, so we'll adjust our prices accordingly. And this has really helped with offtake with farmers that, when and they're trying to get the most money for their product. We also want them to do the same. So we'll now be able to adjust our prices to be able to meet the market prices that are being offered, and we can then be able to match and be able to do a lot more offtake. So I think we're at the 1 hour mark. And I think I'm finished with the questions. Thanks. Looks like Simon, our advisor, is on and thanking me. Thank you, Simon. It's been a great journey with you, and I look forward to the future. And I just want to thank everyone. And I also want to thank the World Potato Congress for having me on today. They've been instrumental. They've supported me in the early stages of FreshCrop in being able to attend one of the World Potato Congresses through their different scholarship programs. So I'm super appreciative. In any way that I can help in the future, I would love to be able to help out the organization that has helped me so much. So thank you very much and have a great day.